Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. Senate leaders disagree over changing filibuster rules. What could it mean for the Democrats' voting rights bill? We look at what one key senator has to say about it. The Omicron variant now makes up almost all of the new COVID cases in the U.S. That's according to the CDC, which has updated its guidance on quarantine. From a life or death catastrophe to recovery, we have an update from the mayor of Superior, Colorado, as the city comes together after a severe firestorm. 17 alleged gang members believed to be responsible for a series of shootings were charged in 2 sweeping indictments with murder, assault, and more. And tennis star Novak Djokovic says he has received a vaccine exemption to play at the Australian Open, but the move is sparking criticism among some residents. It sounds like a Senate showdown is coming over easing the filibuster rules. If the Senate Majority Leader is able to change them, it could mean the chamber would only need a simple majority to advance legislation. NTD's Jessica Beatty has the details.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, a Republican, says the chamber's Democratic Majority Leader is trying to break the Senate. That's by easing the filibuster rules.
It appears as if the Majority Leader is hell-bent to try to break the Senate. His argument is that somehow state legislatures across the country are busily at work trying to make it more difficult for people to vote.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced the Senate will vote soon on easing the filibuster rules. Democrats are trying to move forward with their election law package, which has been blocked by a Republican-led filibuster. Holdout Democrat Joe Manchin sounded skeptical Tuesday about easing the filibuster rules, even though he supports the election bill.
Well, I've always been for rules being done the way we've always done, 2/3 of the members voting. But, we're still ongoing conversations as far as on voting, because I think the bedrock of democracy is making sure that you're able to cast a vote. If you're legal of age and a United States citizen, you should be able to cast a vote.
Another hot topic is President Biden's nearly $2 trillion social spending and climate agenda, which needs Manchin's support. The White House and Schumer sounded optimistic Tuesday that they can get him on board. But Manchin says he hasn't changed his mind, and there are no talks at this time.
I feel as strongly today as I did then. Inflation's still a concern. It's still over 6%. And the geopolitical unrest that we have. So these are all challenges, guys, and this is all expensive challenges.
Meanwhile, implementing President Biden's trillion-dollar spending bill has become a top priority of the White House ahead of this year's midterm elections. Biden's infrastructure coordinator, Mitch Landrieu, wants U.S. governors to appoint their own state infrastructure coordinators to help roll out the law. Landrieu sent letters to all the governors on Tuesday. He suggested they create their own infrastructure task forces to facilitate the implementation process and to avoid delay. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Talks have stalled in Congress as lawmakers discuss whether businesses need additional COVID-19 relief. A bipartisan group of U.S. senators is looking at another possible economic stimulus package. This one would focus on businesses impacted by the pandemic, including restaurants, gyms, and performance venues. The discussions have been ongoing since cases of the Omicron variant started to spike last year. Whether any bill could even make it to a committee remains to be seen. Talks in the Senate are currently shelved, and a House aide says none of its lawmakers are in serious discussions on the matter. A senior White House official also said the administration isn't looking at another stimulus, but added something small could be done for restaurants. The CDC said Omicron now makes up about 95% of all new COVID cases in the United States, and the agency has updated its isolation guidance to include a section on antigen tests. In the week that ended on January 1st, the CDC said the Omicron variant accounted for approximately 95.4% of new COVID-19 cases. It's a jump from 2 weeks ago, when Omicron only made up about 38% of all new cases. The agency's findings suggest Omicron is highly contagious. That's because it was able to displace the Delta strain in only a few weeks. What's more, the CDC has updated its isolation guidance. It now includes a section on antigen tests. The update says for people in quarantine, it's best to use an antigen test near the end of the 5-day period, but it does not say that those in quarantine have to test negative before coming out. And in the Northeast, New Jersey on Monday saw its highest number of patients hospitalized with COVID-19 since May of 2020. Virus hospitalizations there are up 76% in 1 week. Governor Phil Murphy addressed the Omicron surge.
This Omicron tsunami has changed the game yet again. We cannot summarily give up the fight. We need to remain on a war footing to ensure that we can get resources to where they need to be and when they need to be there.
In nearby Massachusetts, long lines of people gathered to be tested, waiting in their cars and in person. This, as the Omicron spike could potentially overrun hospitals. Similarly, long lines are forming in the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico. Personnel there are seen wearing full PPE administering the tests. The federal government is taking measures to address the surge. This month, the White House says at-home COVID-19 tests will be sent out. But CBS reporter Ed O'Keefe cited rising cases, long waiting lines for testing, and pandemic-related school closures when he asked Psaki if she would agree if the country has lost control of the virus.
We would not, and here's why. We're in a very different place than we were a year ago, Ed. 200 million people are vaccinated. Those are people who are protected, seriously protected from illness and death from the virus. We have also just purchased the largest over-the-counter purchase of tests in history, 500 million tests.
Psaki said the tests that Biden promised last month will arrive later in January. A federal court grants a preliminary injunction to a group of 35 Navy Special Warfare Service members. They are suing the Biden administration for denying them religious exemption to the COVID-19 vaccine mandate.
And then lastly, on the injunction, there's not a lot I can say about it, an issue which is under litigation, Bob. But as I said last night, we are aware, of course, of the injunction, and we're reviewing it and in discussions with the Department of Justice as to what options might be available to us going forward.
Among the group in the lawsuit are 26 Navy SEALs. The injunction stops the Department of Defense from taking any action against them for refusing the shot while the legal process plays out. The judge in the case wrote, "The Navy service members in this case seek to vindicate the very freedoms they have sacrificed so much to protect." He also says the pandemic does not give the government the right to sidestep constitutional freedoms. The lawsuit is related to the August mandate that says all military service members must be vaccinated. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is suing President Biden and other members of the administration over the COVID-19 vaccine mandate for National Guard members. The Republican governor's lawsuit was filed Tuesday. It says the policy is unconstitutional and infringes on his authority as commander-in-chief and on the sovereignty of Texas. Abbott's lawsuit says more than 220 members of the Texas Air National Guard and about 40% of the Texas Army National Guard are refusing vaccination. It says the mandate will lead to the loss of those guardsmen from the governor's command and the state's militia, which will cause harm. Abbott isn't alone. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt also tried to stop the mandate in his state. A federal district judge denied his request for an injunction last week. It's been almost a week since the Marshall Fire ripped through parts of Boulder County in Colorado. As recovery efforts continue, volunteers, local officials, and donors across the county are helping victims get back on their feet.
A makeshift donation center popped up in the parking lot outside Boulder's Black Belly restaurant, where tables and shelves are neatly stacked with clothing and household items. This is one of many relief centers that are helping nearby communities after Colorado's Marshall Fire tore through the towns of Superior and Louisville last Thursday.
You know, the first things are food, shelter, and clothing, right? We can't provide shelter, but we can provide food and clothing, and we're going to do this as long as we can and get the support to do it.
Abby McClelland lives in the Sagamore neighborhood of Superior. She and her family were not home at the time of the fire.
It's hard to come here and find clothes because I still, in my head, can picture my house so clearly. I feel like we're at an airport and our luggage got lost and I'm going to get home really soon.
The wind-whipped blaze blackened entire neighborhoods lying between Denver and Boulder. Nearly 1,000 homes and other structures were destroyed. Hundreds more were damaged. Boulder County allowed evacuated residents to return to their neighborhoods on Tuesday. Some rummaged through the wreckage, still hoping to find items of value.
This is everything I owned for my whole life. 62 years of stuff. I would love to find my mother's diamond, wedding rings and my grandmother's wedding rings and, just some jewelry, but I really don't think it would ever be possible.
Those whose homes were spared felt a mixture of sadness, guilt, and gratitude.
Again, just no words, just sadness. I think a lot of us who survived feel some guilt for even having anything.
Because we still have our home. And so many people don't, our good friends right here. So I'm feeling grateful, pretty stressed. And then right there.
Utility crews have gone door to door to restore power in the region, with volunteers working 24/7 to distribute drinking water.
Free bottled water
According to the Louisville Police Department, water will likely be restored this Sunday. Boulder County is also distributing $5 million in donated funds to people whose homes were damaged or destroyed, officials said. Investigators have narrowed the cause of the fire to a sparsely populated neighborhood near Boulder.
A few minutes, that's how long some residents of Superior, Colorado had to flee their homes and save themselves during the wildfires. And some of them escaped with nothing more than the clothes on their backs. That's according to the city's mayor, Clint Folsom. Earlier, he told NTD that FEMA and state agencies are working with insurance companies to provide housing and financial support to residents. Now we hear more from Mayor Folsom on the physical and emotional state of the city.
Yes, at this point, we are kind of moving from the crisis mode into the recovery mode. It's been just devastating to see what has happened, but now we're starting to get areas cleared to open back up to the residents so they can go in and either get back in their homes that were not affected by the fire or go back in and see the sites where their homes were damaged, or most of the homes that were involved in fire were completely destroyed and just burned to the ground.
And Clint, what have you done to help residents recover?
I've just tried to be as present and accessible in the community, doing a lot of media contacts, just trying to make people in our area and really around the world aware of what's going on in Superior and Louisville, Colorado, and surrounding areas here. So I think just continuing to raise the awareness of the seriousness of this situation is our biggest task right now. And then as we go along, just being a part of the recovery and helping sustain people as they go along.
And this is a terrible tragedy. What's the mood like in Superior?
Everyone is very compassionate. I mean, our residents that have not lost properties definitely know probably dozens of people that have lost things, and so there's a great sense of compassion for everyone and wanting to help, and people wanting to donate both goods and funds, and we're just trying our best to manage that process and get people the help that they need.
And Mayor, 3 people are missing and they're feared to be dead. Do you have any update on this?
The last I heard, it was 2, and I believe those are fatalities. The recovery process is underway, but I don't have any further details than that.
Our hearts go out to everyone affected by this tragedy, and we hope the people who are missing are found alive and well. Thursday is the 1-year anniversary of the January 6th Capitol breach. Capitol Police say they are not concerned about any events planned for that day, but they emphasize the police force learned from its failures last year. NTD's Allison Lee has more.
U.S. Capitol Police Chief Tom Menger said on Tuesday that his force is much better prepared now after the events of January 6th last year. He says he's not concerned about this year's January 6th anniversary.
We've gotten, we're aware of several events that are planned for Thursday. Most of them aren't of much concern to us. There's no intelligence that indicates that that there would be any problems.
The police chief lists several areas that the force improved on over the past year, namely intelligence, event planning, and coordination with other law enforcement agencies.
Since the attack on the Capitol, there have been nearly a dozen reports offering over 100 recommendations on needed improvements and reforms. To date, we have completed or addressed over 90 of those recommendations.
Menger says the Capitol Police have improved the way they gather, analyze, use, and share intelligence. They've done massive joint exercises ahead of major events, given each officer a cell phone to get daily intelligence, and conducted exercises with the National Guard and other police agencies. Allison Lee, NTD News.
Former President Trump has canceled his press conference scheduled for January 6th at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. Trump announced the cancellation in a Tuesday statement. He says he will speak at an Arizona rally January 15th instead. And in other January 6th news, the committee investigating the January 6th Capitol breach is asking Fox News host Sean Hannity to cooperate with their investigation. The committee wants him to answer questions about text messages he sent. In a letter to Hannity on Tuesday, Congress members Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney asked that he voluntarily answer a specific and narrow range of factual questions. The committee's letter says that Hannity had knowledge regarding President Trump and his legal team's planning for January 6th. Thompson and Cheney say that Hannity expressed concerns and provided advice to the former president and his White House staff. They say they have dozens of text messages that make Hannity a fact witness in the case. The committee says it will not clamp down on Hannity's journalistic or political views, but only seeks information needed for the investigation. And in New York City, grand juries have indicted 17 alleged violent Brooklyn street gang members. The suspects are facing charges including murder and assault.
Today, we are charging 17 alleged gang members of 3 different affiliated gangs in connection with 14 shootings, 3 murders that killed or hurt 14 people.
Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez announced the indictments at a news conference, noting most of the suspects have been arrested. They are now facing a total of 118 charges, including murder, attempted murder, and assault. Gonzalez played surveillance video of a shooting at a birthday party. Police say alleged gang members George Richard Jr., Aquan Warlick, and 2 others attacked partygoers.
And now the shooting starts. They're shooting upstairs, he's shooting downstairs. You see everyone running for their lives. You can see Aquan Warlick shooting. You can see the guy running away with the gun. They've already now shot a number of people.
Gonzalez showed the gun found during Warlick's arrest. The 17-year-old was also identified in a grocery store shooting in 2020. Eric Adams, on his 4th day as New York City mayor, confronted the #1 issue he promised to address: crime.
That is the problem. Everyday New Yorker in this borough of 2.6 million people were held hostage by 3 gang crews.
NYPD Commissioner Keyshawn Sewell vowed to make progress, saying stopping violence is the police department's top priority.
NYPD detectives teamed up with prosecutors from the beginning to gather evidence and to strategically dismantle violent gang and street crews by building strong cases. It is what the NYPD's work will continue to look like going forward.
Sewell pledged more efforts to curb gun violence and reduce juvenile crime.
Conservative radio talk show host Larry Elder announces he will not run against Gavin Newsom for California governor this year. He cites the difficulty in running as a Republican in the state. Elder told the Epoch Times, quote, "There hasn't been a single Republican elected statewide in California in almost 20 years. He says Democratic voters in California outnumber Republicans 3-1. He also says a lot of Republican voters have already left California. Elder was the top candidate to replace Governor Gavin Newsom in September's unsuccessful recall vote. He received more votes than 46 others in the race. He says he doesn't know what the future holds for him politically, but he plans to put his political momentum to use through his Political Action Committee. He hopes to help Republicans win federal and local elections. Texas law enforcement is looking for the pilot of a small plane that crashed while smuggling illegal immigrants into the United States. The pilot escaped and left 5 on board with severe injuries. The sheriff's office says pilot Tobias Peters was attempting to smuggle 5 illegal immigrants on December 30th when he crashed north of an airport in remote Texas border region. Nobody died on the crash flight. That officials did not say what country the illegal immigrants were from. Peters is suspected to have severe head trauma and potentially lost an eye in the accident. He's wanted for human smuggling, avoiding arrest, and deadly conduct. Authorities say Peters' home address is in Seminole, Texas, but he's known to travel to and from Ojinga, Mexico. The USS Abraham Lincoln deployed this week from San Diego under the command of Captain Amy Bauernschmidt. She is the first woman to lead a nuclear carrier in U.S. Navy history. Bauernschmidt previously served as the Abraham Lincoln's executive officer from 2016 to 2019. She took over command from Captain Walt Slaughter during a ceremony last year.
I consider it an honor and a privilege to be Abraham Lincoln's commanding officer. I am ready to lead the finest warship in the Navy into their next chapter. We have a deployment on top, time to make Lincoln Nation. Let's get after it.
The carrier deployed Monday from Naval Air Station North Island on San Diego Bay. It is part of the Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group. The Carrier Strike Group consists of the USS Abraham Lincoln, Carrier Air Wing 9, a guided missile cruiser, and Destroyer Squadron 21. The Carrier Strike Group is led by the command staff of Carrier Strike Group 3 and consists of Nimitz-class aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, Carrier Air Wing 9, the guided missile cruiser USS Mobile Bay, and the guided missile destroyers of Destroyer Squadron 21, USS Fitzgerald, USS Gridley, USS Sampson, and USS Spruance. The strike group is deploying with what the Navy is touting as its most advanced air wing and is heading to the Indo-Pacific region. Just ahead, smart home systems, smart washing machines, and smart microwaves. Tech giants are showcasing their latest innovations at the annual Consumer Electronics Show. And Panasonic offers futuristic new tech at this year's Consumer Electronics Show. The company makes cooking more hands-free and uses augmented reality to enhance the driving experience. Find out more here on NTD News.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. My employees and I want to personally thank each and every one of you for all of your support. At MyPillow, we not only have pillows, but we have hundreds of products, including my new slippers, bathrobes, sleepwear, and my new beds. We're offering the best gifts ever for the best prices ever. For example, we have this exclusive offer on the standard size MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now only $19.98 with your promo code. We also have the queen size MyPillows, regularly $79.98, now only $24.98 with your promo code. And we have the king size, regularly $89.98, now only $29.98 with your promo code. So go to mypillow.com now and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below to receive this exclusive offer.
Tech giants are showcasing their latest products ahead of the Consumer Electronics Show, or CES. The event is set to take place in Las Vegas. Let's take a look at what LG Electronics has to offer.
LG's promotional video shows a not-too-distant future when all household appliances could be voice-activated. Smartphone apps will be able to upgrade products like washing machines and other home gadgets. Users will also be able to scan barcodes on food products and learn how to cook them. LG CEO says his company wants to make life better for customers.
Yes, we are still all about better convenience, better safety, and better entertainment, but all better in a different, broader, and fuller sense. Much more personal, much more inclusive, sustainable, and ahead into the future.
Technology specialist Jonathan Rubini says other companies, including Samsung, are also working on similar projects. That is, trying to make people's homes into an environment where everything functions seamlessly.
Basically provide you an ecosystem where you can really do everything in your home. You can transition easily from one point to the other of the home. And that's really what they were focusing on today and showing us that they can actually achieve that seamlessly throughout different appliances, TVs, and everything else in your home.
LG is also unveiling a new generation of micro LED screens and transparent OLED displays. The technology is already used in places including subway trains, shopping malls, and museums.
Our communication method has changed a lot during this pandemic. Screens has become more important and more numerous for many of us. As such, display will play more significant role in the future.
CES 2022 runs from Wednesday, January 5th to Friday, January 7th. Over 2,200 exhibitors are going to showcase their products in person. The show's organizers anticipate between 50,000 and 75,000 attendees. The in-person event was canceled last year due to the pandemic.
And Japanese tech giant Panasonic also has new products to offer at CES 2022. This year, the company is focusing on technologies we use in the kitchen and in our cars. Let's take a look.
Panasonic's newest product is a smart inverter countertop microwave that works with Amazon's Alexa. With it, you won't have to look up instructions and figure out how many minutes you need to set for your food or drink.
In fact, folks at home prepare for some confusion. Alexa, reheat 1 cup of coffee.
Starting coffee. 1 minute, 10 seconds.
The tech company is also offering some new gaming gadgets, including the Sound Slayer wearable immersive gaming speaker system. Panasonic recommends that you pair the Sound Slayer with its flagship TV, the LZ2000 OLED series.
The Sound Slayer is worn over the shoulders with a flexible silicone joint that sits at the back for hours of comfortable gameplay. We are proud to share that this has been named a CES 2022 Innovation Award honoree in both the personal audio and headphones category as well as the gaming category.
And in terms of technologies for cars, Panasonic is promoting its One Connect vehicle monitoring technology. The system uses an augmented reality camera that customizes real-world roadway data into the driver's field of view.
Integrated fully into the vehicle, we sense the entire world around the car and paint onto the world to show you where to go. We take the cognitive load of trying to figure out where you are, your next turn, what's around you, and offload that to the computer processor and simply point you to a path and destination all on your built-in heads-up or video display.
The company is also coming up with its first vehicle-installed augmented reality heads-up display, or HUD, with eye-tracking technology.
We can make sure your HUD images follow where you're looking and stay in crisp focus, even as you're moving and tilting your head around. It also enables personal identification and driver monitoring system functions like drowsiness detection.
The company boasts that augmented reality navigation will be the next evolution in the driving experience.
For people who want to move to Miami, this year Aston Martin is offering you a deal on its new condos. If you buy a condo at their waterfront residence, you will get a free car. Aston Martin plans to unveil its luxury apartments by the end of this year, and each buyer can choose 1 out of 2 special edition Aston Martins that were especially created for this occasion. A great bonus, for those who can afford it at least, because the condos will start at $5.5 million. Japanese automaker Toyota outsold General Motors in the United States in 2021. This marks the first time the Detroit automaker has not led U.S. auto sales for a full year since 1931.
For the first time in 90 years, General Motors is not the top-selling automaker in the U.S. That honor instead goes to a rival some 6,000 miles from Detroit, Japanese automaker Toyota. A shortage of semiconductor chips used in building new vehicles posed a challenge for the auto industry as a whole, forcing most brands to focus on selling their most profitable models. For GM, that meant full-size SUVs and pickup trucks. A company spokesperson said that as the economy improves and semiconductors become more available, GM sales will rebound, adding, quote, "I wouldn't rush out if I were Toyota and get a "We're number one" tattoo." And Toyota is not boasting about its accomplishment, at least not publicly. Senior Vice President Jack Hollis said in a statement that the automaker is grateful for its loyal customers, but that being number one is, quote, "never a focus or priority." Roughly 15 million vehicles were sold in the U.S. in 2021, well below the 5-year average of 17.3 million from 2015 to 2019. Sales are expected to tick up to 15.5 million in 2022, and consumers should expect to see prices continue to rise. Edmunds said average prices for new vehicles hit another new record in November at nearly $46,000, compared to about $40,000 in November of 2020. Edmunds also forecast used vehicle prices will surpass the $30,000 mark for the first time ever in 2022.
Japanese authorities say North Korea fired a suspected ballistic missile off its east coast earlier today, and South Korea reports the launch of an unspecified projectile. The launch would be the first of the new year for nuclear-armed North Korea. It comes days after leader Kim Jong-un vowed to continue developing North Korea's military. Japan's Coast Guard, which first reported the launch, says it could be a ballistic missile, but did not provide further details. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said North Korea fired an unidentified projectile off the East Coast without elaborating. Earlier this week, State Department spokesperson Ned Price reiterated the U.S. desire for dialogue with North Korea, saying Washington had no hostile intent and was prepared to meet without preconditions. Would you be willing to trade an iPhone for a bag of rice? Well, in the Chinese city of Xi'an, they don't have a choice. Residents are now bartering goods in order to feed themselves. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more on the story.
Some residents in China's Xi'an city have started trading goods for food. That's as strict pandemic restrictions have made it hard for locals to buy kitchen staples. For 2 weeks, the northern Chinese city has observed lockdown orders. At the beginning, one person per household was allowed outside once every 2 days to shop for food. But a week into the policy, authorities tightened the rules, banning even these brief, infrequent trips outside the home. This measure is supposed to prevent pandemic from spreading. The city is now a hotspot for virus cases and boasts a total population of nearly 13 million people. Local authorities promised to supply food and other essentials amid the total shutdown. But a number of residents are complaining on social media, saying there's a lack of food and insufficient service from authorities. To cope, some of them have started bartering. One video shows a person trading with her neighbor, handing over a bag of rice for an iPhone Plus and iPad.
你好，这个手机可平稳。我家就带米了，菜没有了。行。
One comment on the video reads, "If it were me, I might not put the rice up for trade." Another video shows a man exchanging 2 packs of cigarettes for a head of cabbage. And much to the delight of the man receiving the vegetable, he's given an extra tomato and carrot as a bonus. A photo posted online reveals what authorities are delivering to residents. These vegetables are meant to feed one household for 2 days. Another picture shows officials holding a banner with packages of food stacked behind them. According to the person who took the photo, the officials gathered to take the photo but left soon after, taking the food with them. The situation also seems to extend beyond food. One video has sparked concern online. It shows a woman crying in quarantine as she begs for feminine hygiene products.
还有，我来大姨妈了，也没有卫生巾。我从昨天开始一直打12345的社长热线，然后没有人能处理这个事情，报警也没有人过来接我。
Yet another Chinese city is being locked down. This is according to a local Communist Party statement on Monday. Authorities in Yuzhou City, Henan Province, are ordering all 1 million residents to self-quarantine. The statement says that no one is to take a step outside their homes. Despite the strict measures, authorities said on Tuesday that they don't know the number of cases in the city. But they said that the virus control and prevention situation in the city is very severe. Vehicles are banned from going outside as well. That's unless they have clearance from virus control officials. Authorities are also halting activities in supermarkets apart from the supply of daily necessities. Meanwhile, elsewhere in Henan province, cities are enforcing similar pandemic measures due to a rise in new virus cases. Local authorities announced that they'll be restricting residents' movement in parts of Zhengzhou City and Taikang County. Virus control measures in these areas include keeping residents at home, banning public gatherings, restricting entry into the region, suspending certain businesses, and virus testing. Authorities are only allowing residents to leave their homes once every 2 days to buy groceries.
Up next, Kazakhstan's government resigns after widespread protests over a hike in fuel prices. Parts of the country were put under curfew and movement restrictions. And it's milking season on Russian trout farms. Just one farm can produce a whopping 10 to 20 million fertilized fish eggs per year. All that and more here on NTD News.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new precious metals IRA. Call now.
Travel for K Original, Jola Namdo. The moment your five senses awaken. K Culture. The taste of Jola Namdo leads to the world. K Food. An exhilarating memory that I will cherish. There's no end to happiness. K Life. A great place to truly enjoy traveling. K Travel, Jola Namdo.
Someone has to find the way to build the Great Dome. Completely new, completely original.
Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison said that men's tennis world number 1 Novak Djokovic needs to prove that he has a genuine medical exemption from CCP virus vaccination when he lands in Australia. Otherwise, he'll be on the next plane home. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
Djokovic announced on Tuesday that he received an exemption to play in the Grand Slam tournament in Melbourne and said he was heading to Australia. But Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the tennis star would be treated like any other visitor.
So we await his presentation and what evidence he provides to support that. If that evidence is insufficient, then he won't be treated any different to anyone else and he'll be on the next plane home. So there should be no special rules for Novak Djokovic at all, none whatsoever.
Tennis Australia and the Victorian state government said Djokovic was one of a handful of successful applicants among 26 people who sought exemptions from being vaccinated, but said he had not received any special treatment in the anonymous application process. But the decision to grant Djokovic an exemption to the tournament sparked sharp criticism in Australia.
I think it's a disgrace. We've all done the right thing. We've all gone out and got our jabs and our boosters, and we have someone that's come from overseas and all of a sudden he's been exempt and can play, and I think it's an absolute disgrace and I won't be watching it.
The Serbian had declined to reveal his vaccination status, but said previously that he was unsure whether he would compete due to concerns over Australia's quarantine rules. Many Australians have been subjected to a series of lengthy lockdowns over the past 2 years, particularly those in Melbourne, which hosts the year's first tennis major later this month.
If it's reasonable, if he has actual medical problems with that, but if he's just saying that to get in and doesn't have actual reason for it, I guess that's a little bit more iffy, especially if he's coming to Victoria where everyone's has to abide by the same regulations.
An outbreak of the Omicron variant has also sent case numbers to record levels. Federal and state governments heavily pushed the importance of vaccinations. As a result, 90% of people over 16 have received 2 shots, and a booster program is rolling out. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has declared a 2-week state of emergency in the Central Asian nation's biggest city, Almaty, and in the western Mangistau province, where protests turned violent.
The Kazakh government resigned on Wednesday as protests erupted across the country over a fuel price hike. Police clashed with protesters in the nation's biggest city, Almaty. And security forces fired tear gas and stun grenades to stop hundreds of people from storming the mayor's office. In a video message to the country on Tuesday, President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev urged protesters to behave rationally. Many Kazakhs fill their cars with liquid petroleum gas because price caps keep it cheaper than gasoline. But the government lifted those caps over the weekend, arguing that the low price was unsustainable. In response to protests, the government did a U-turn and announced it was restoring the price cap to less than half the market price. But that hasn't stopped the protests. On Wednesday, Deputy Alikhan Smailov was appointed as acting prime minister, and the president's office has issued a state of emergency and said Almaty and the western Mangistau province would be put under curfew and movement restrictions for 2 weeks. Dissent is rare in the oil-rich Central Asian nation, as public protest is illegal without notice.
Hackers interrupted a video briefing on Tuesday, playing clips of loud music and showing sometimes violent images for more than 2 minutes. The meeting was hosted by a group of lawyers representing relatives of those who died when Iran shot down a Ukrainian airliner. The lawyers ended the Zoom call and restarted it without further incident. The briefing was held after a Canadian court this week awarded $84 million to the families of 6 people this week. Those 6 had died when Iranian Revolutionary Guards downed a jet near Tehran 2 years ago. No one has claimed responsibility for the hack. While the lawyers sent out a news release to the media with the dial-in details and password for the call. Iran shot down the airliner in January 2020. All 176 people on board were killed, including 55 Canadian citizens and 30 permanent residents. The family members awarded compensation had filed a civil lawsuit against Iran and other officials who they believe were to blame for the incident. Scientists in France have discovered another variant of COVID-19 with a large number of mutations. They are urging people not to panic. The variant is being called IHU. In a study from December, researchers found the variant in 12 people living in the same area of southeastern France. The first identified case in the group was a male adult who recently returned from travel to Cameroon, a country in West Central Africa. The male was vaccinated against COVID-19 and developed mild respiratory symptoms the day before diagnosis. An analysis of the IHU variant revealed it has 46 mutations. The CDC is advising unvaccinated travelers to avoid non-essential travel to Cameroon. London virologist Tom Peacock notes on Twitter that the IHU variant is not newer than Omicron. He says people shouldn't be too worried about it right now. Still to come, 2 twins are born just 15 minutes apart before and after the clock strikes midnight on New Year's Day. The boy and girl are healthy, and the family is thrilled. All that and more in just a minute. Winter means milking season for trout farms in Russia. One single farm can produce a staggering 10 to 20 million fertilized fish eggs per year, though extracting the eggs is no easy task. Let's see how it's done.
Adler Pedigree is one of the biggest trout farms in Russia. Ahead of spawning season, Trout breeders are busy selecting fish from over 130 specialized ponds before milking them indoors for eggs and other products.
That is selective breeding work. We receive fertilized eggs to sell to other farms that can provide incubation and the facilities to grow fish. Also, we produce caviar for food purposes. Everything that is not suitable for fertilization, we salt and produce for selling as a finished product.
1 month before milking, farmers stop feeding the fish and transfer them to water at a lower temperature, from 60 degrees Fahrenheit to around 50 degrees. The process mimics what happens in nature. Later in the indoor reservoir, skilled workers anesthetize the fish to extract eggs. They do this by squeezing on their abdomens.
We visually check the quality to see if it's good for breeding. If the caviar is good, we put this caviar into a special jar. We collect caviar from 3 to 4 fish, around 15,000 eggs in each jar for eventual fertilization.
Putting pressure on the fish's stomach without harming it is difficult, so only very skilled workers can handle the job. As for the eggs getting fertilized, fish sperm get added to the eggs. Then the solution is mixed in a clockwise direction.
In 10 days, we see how the caviar was fertilized, but now based on the amount of foam, we can say that the movement of sperm is very good and the percentage of the fertilization will be high. We can determine that visually at this stage. The more foam, the better the fertilization.
Trout milking season lasts from fall to spring. Every year, the trout farm harvests 10 to 20 million fertilized eggs, obtained from more than 1 million fish living there.
$145,000. That's how much a bluefin tuna sold for this morning at the annual New Year tuna auction. It's held by Tokyo's largest fish market, but the seemingly high price tag actually marks a price drop for the auction's highest bidder for the 3rd consecutive year. The 465-pound tuna was sold for 4 million yen, the equivalent of over $34,000 less than last year's highest bidder. That's according to public broadcaster NHK. The tuna was caught in waters off northern Japan's Aomori Prefecture. It was sold to an upscale sushi restaurant where it was almost immediately sliced and diced for customers. The annual New Year's auction is seen as auspicious and a good opportunity for the winning bidder to gain publicity, but the event was downsized with fewer attendees for a 2nd year in a row due to the COVID-19 precautions. The pandemic has seen a slump in demand for tuna, leaving prices to drop within the past 2 years. Carbs have gotten a bad reputation despite being the backbone of the human diet. Let's get some clarity on this debated topic. Here's Gina Marie, who brings us Strong Mind and Body.
Nutritionally speaking, carbohydrates usually amount to little more than sugar. In the current dietary vernacular, sugar means bad. But is that fair? Not really. Although carbohydrates are sugars, starches and fiber, they aren't inherently bad. Not all sugar is bad, believe it or not. In fact, your body needs sugar to run. Glucose, in other words stored sugar, is your body's preferred source of energy. Sugar allows your muscles and organs to do their work. Like other things, carbohydrates can be a force for both good and evil. It usually comes down to dose and source. If you are eating too many carbohydrates and getting them from the wrong places, they can cause devastating effects like weight gain, heart troubles, type 2 diabetes, and liver disease. So how do you distinguish between good and bad? It's quite easy. If it comes naturally in a food such as a fruit, vegetable, grain or dairy, it's a high quality carbohydrate. If it comes in a box or plastic package, especially in the form of an added sugar or hyper-processed grain, it can be dangerous. That includes most processed foods, snacks, soft drinks, fast foods and white bread. Fruit, vegetables, dairy and grains all feature natural sugars, but the sugar is in low doses and comes along with a host of other nutrients. Fruits, vegetables and most grains contain fiber as well, which helps with sugar absorption. This means blood sugar levels are highly unlikely to spike. Dairy can be tricky. Dairy contains lactose, a naturally occurring sugar in generally low amounts, but flavored yogurts have sugar added, making them more like junk food than a healthy snack. So when it comes to yogurt, go plain and add fruit for some sweetness and high-quality carbohydrates. Fruit juices can be confusing too. They are made from fruit, but they can have very high sugar concentrations without fiber to act as a buffer. Instead of drinking your fruit in the form of juice, eat it whole. That can include mashed up in a smoothie. Take a look at the ingredients of packaged food. When you see terms ending in "ose", including high fructose corn syrup, you can almost guarantee it's a bad carbohydrate. On the other hand, it's a good carbohydrate when food comes from the produce section and is unpackaged. Further, if it's a brown grain, it's likely a good carbohydrate. Use good carbs to make up roughly half of your daily caloric intake. That way you'll have a low risk of illness and a highly functional body.
Two twins were born just 15 minutes apart, and they have completely different birthdays. Each baby came into the world on a different day, month, and year. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
At 11:45 p.m. on New Year's Eve 2021, Fatima Madrigal gave birth to her son Alfredo Antonio Trujillo in Salinas, California. Then, as the clock struck midnight and hospital staff rang in the new year, Eileen arrived.
I didn't realize that I thought we were gonna be born in the same year. I did not know that we're gonna be born in a different year. It was a surprise.
The twins arrived ahead of Madrigal's due date of January 16th. Eileen weighed in at 5 pounds, 14 ounces, while big brother Alfredo weighed 6 pounds, 1 ounce.
Yes, I was kind of shocked because twins don't run in my family, nor in my partner's family. So we were really surprised that we got blessed with 2 babies. And it's a boy and a girl. So we are complete. It's okay.
Madrigal said her partner Robert Trujillo and other 3 children, ages 11, 3, and 1, were thrilled with the new arrivals. For now, the twins will celebrate their birthdays on the same day, Madrigal said.
Well, I'll spend it to them the best I can, but if they want to, when they're older, if they want to, celebrate their birthdays like different years, that's up to them. But right now that they're small and they're with me, they're going to celebrate their birthday together.
According to Natividad Medical Center, where the twins were born, there are about 120,000 twin births in the U.S. every year. But twins with different birthdays are rare. Some estimate the chance of twins being born in different years as 1 in 2 million, the hospital said. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up.